This program airs statewide on California Public Television and is a California's Gold classic. This series is endorsed by the California Teachers Association, the California School Boards Association, and the California Library Association. Built as part of the California Midwinter International Exposition of 1894, the Japanese tea garden has been a part of the landscape of San Francisco for over a century. Entirely constructed by Japanese artisans and located at Golden Gate Park, the garden was a joint effort of both East and West and was the pride and joy of landscape designer Makoto Hajiwara, who originally planned it and laid it all out. Now, the tea garden was so popular that after the Exposition closed in 1895, it remained open as a permanent attraction. And Makoto Hajiwara and his family were placed in charge of it. In fact, they lived in the garden itself. And for generations, this family kept the tea garden tradition alive. Today, the garden is still as beautiful as ever and is very much a part of California's gold. Good morning, I'm Huell Howser.
Good morning, I'm Deborah Knotts. I'm one of the gardeners here in the Japanese tea garden. It's very nice to meet you.
Well, we are delighted to be here. You told us that this was the time of year to come, that the cherry blossoms were going to be in full bloom.
And I was right.
And you were right. This is spectacular.
Yeah, I know, it really is. End of March is usually the best time of year for the cherry blossoms.
Is this the best time to be here?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And this is when most of the tourists prefer to come in the spring. The fall is also really beautiful, but this is when it's most floriferous. It's really beautiful here now.
Well, we're tourists.
Yeah.
So let's take the tour of the garden. Now, how much of this is original and how much of this is new or has been added over the years? For example, this is beautiful.
This was original, but was reconstructed by the original Hagiwara family, and with their funds we were able to bring it back. It had grown over with ivy and become kind of hidden. This was the original garden, this part that you're seeing here. It was part of the 1894 tea garden. There were 3 tea houses at that time, and now we have just the one.
Oh, okay, so here's the tea house.
This is the tea house itself.
Oh, look, and there are people there having tea. Is that part of it?
That's part of the whole experience when you come here.
And they're dressed in the kimonos?
That's right, that's right.
This is just beautiful.
It was originally intended to be a stroll garden. So you would stroll, and each time you'd round a corner, you'd have a different experience.
So now this is beautiful right here.
Yes. We have lots of these stone lanterns throughout the garden. Some of them are original, some of them were brought in later, given as donations. As you can see, there's a plaque here.
And lots of these little, what do you call these little wooden?
This is a gate, and it was originally part of the 1915 fair here in San Francisco, the Panama Pacific Fair. The Hagiwaras lived in the area just behind here, and this gate was for their home.
So this has been here since 1915.
Right. And this building here was also one of the first structures in the garden. It was supposed to represent a Japanese home, and it's now used as a concession. And they sell trinkets and things in there.
Now, I don't know where, can we go right through the gate?
Yes, you can go right through the gate.
Oh, this is great.
This is the sunken garden area, and it's supposed to look as if you're viewing an area far in the distance, and the trees are all supposed to be dwarfed.
So you've got this whole little area and lots of windy little paths over there.
This area was actually redesigned about the 1950s. The Hagiwaras were interned during the Second World War, so their home was destroyed, and then this was rebuilt. And as you can see, we've got kind of a different landscaping effect here.
Now, is this the peaceful area?
Yes, this is one of the areas that doesn't get as much foot traffic. And it was designed to be a peaceful area. There's no place to sit here, but there's lots of green, and this rock arrangement is quite beautiful.
Now
Lots of maples.
that is what to me is so interesting about a true Japanese garden, is the simplicity of it in many ways.
Right.
That you just have this hill with the green grass and 3 rocks just
Right.
kind of.
And a lot of times there's a great deal of symbolism involved with the placement of rocks. Some people even say rocks have a face, and if you can find the correct face, then you can position it correctly. There are other bits of symbolism involved with Japanese gardens too, but people do things to varying extent. Sometimes there are rules that can be broken. You know, you should always have your stream flowing from east to west, but then if you can't do that, if you plant a willow tree by the base of the stream, then it'll override any bad influences.
Now, who makes up these rules?
They're just things that have been passed down through many years of gardening.
Yeah.
A lot of these rules actually came from the Chinese.
Oh, look. This is just great.
Now, this is probably the most popular part of the garden.
Oh, look. Climbing the bridge.
This is the Moon Bridge, and you can actually climb across it.
Hi, how you doing? Good. How are you? Give us a wave. They made it to the top. Now you got to get down. What was that all about?
The bridge is designed so that boats with sails could get under it, see? So that's why it was designed with such a curve. Of course, this curve is exaggerated because normally you wouldn't put something this narrow over this little bit of water.
That's great, though.
Yeah. It's called a moon bridge because it makes a full circle from the top. The full circle is represented in the water below when you're standing up there.
Well, we got to go up.
Yep.
You know that. Let's try getting up here. You coming up with me?
Okay, okay. Be careful.
Here we go. Well, we made it to the top.
From up here you have nice views as well.
Oh, yeah. You got a 360 up here.
Yeah.
Oh, look over here. That's just spectacular. It's worth the climb.
I hope so. It's getting down, then stop.
Now, if we had been walking here in the late 1800s, the early 1900s, would it have looked and felt like it does today?
I doubt it. I doubt it. Because some of this from here on was extended and added on. So not only that, but these trees have matured. I mean, above you here is a maple that's probably about as old as the garden. So
And those trees back there.
those trees are definitely very old. They're obviously close to 100 years old. They're almost reaching the maximum lifespan.
So the garden really has, would you use the word evolved?
Yes, gardens are never static. I mean, they're constantly evolving. That's the one thing about being a gardener, is that things are always changing. So we're trying to keep the garden as it was intended, but at the same time, there's no way you can because things are going to have to mature and get larger. But it's quite a job being a gardener here, as you can imagine. It's unending.
Well, you've got a little bit of work out there. Look at that, as
Yeah.
far as you can see.
Yeah.
And these don't just grow and look like this on their own,
Right.
do they?
Everything in this garden is pruned. Everything in this garden is constantly pruned. The trees are pruned once a year. Some things are allowed to be pruned every couple of years, but most things are pruned once a year. So as soon as we finish one cycle of pruning, it's time to begin again.
So the operative word in Japanese gardens is prune.
Right, exactly.
Oh, look.
This is a beautiful Buddha that was given by the Gump Company to the San Francisco garden, Japanese tea garden.
Now, what's the story on
The
this?
story, there's a plaque here behind you, and so you can kind of see for yourself. It was cast in 1799 in Japan.
Wow. 1799.
Right, right. It's actually, I believe, in 3 pieces. And so...
And the way it sits with this stand of bamboo right next to it, and the huge big tree behind it, it really adds a whole nother dimension to the Buddha itself.
Yes, it does. The hand position is supposed to stand for have no fear, which I think is really wonderful. And people love this Buddha. They often come here and leave gifts on it, flowers and food and things like that.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. We'll come in and find all kinds of things.
And here's a nice one here.
This is a really beautiful lantern. If you were to put candles on each of the stages, it would look like a shimmering lantern from afar. And I have people coming here that came here as a child, and now they're in their 90s, and they'll tell me how they remember the garden, and they love to climb over the moon bridge. That's their big event.
And this is a big event here, just going through the...
This is the temple gate, and I actually read recently that this may not actually be either Japanese or Chinese, but in fact from Thailand. But that's not for sure. But in any case, it was brought from the 1915 fair by the original designer, Mr. Hagiwara, and placed here.
And look at the design when you just look at that up against the blue sky with the colors. It's just spectacular. And then if that wasn't enough, you just turn right over here and see this beautiful thing. This is technically a...
This is a pagoda.
Pagoda.
Yes, it's a pagoda. It was put in this position after the Shinto shrine that was originally here was destroyed during the Second World War. So this was placed in its place.
And look at this. Now
These trees are trimmed like this because in Japan, when the snow would fall on them, it would be like the peony flower, mounds of snow on the tops.
Wow. You do the trimming on these?
Yes, we do.
Oh, here are the koi. Look at this. Boy, those are big ones.
Yeah.
Now, I think of all the places we've been so far, this is my favorite view so far.
Yeah, it's really nice. You have a combination of the torii gate, the pagoda, and this other beautiful gate over here with the waterfall as well. This is a really beautiful view over here.
And watch, now here's a lady over here.
This is one of the regulars.
You're a regular here.
A regular, yes.
Now, do you sit right here? Is this your place?
This is my meditation bench.
So you're writing? Do you draw? Do you...
No, I don't draw, but I often sit here for meditation, and then I write some.
Now, is this your spot? Because look at this spot. Look at what you're looking out on.
I know, it's beautiful. The whole garden is just my place, I guess, my home away from home. It's what keeps me sane in this city.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us for a while.
Thank you.
We'll let you return to your writing. I guess a lot of that goes on here.
Yes.
Just people sitting.
People do come here quite often. There are regulars that know about the place, and it is a really soothing place to be in the middle of a city. I'd like to point something out. Just down here, you'll see this little Buddha. And it was placed there purposely because Buddha supposedly meditated below a pine. And as you can see, this is a dwarf black pine here. So if you look closely, you'll find things like this throughout the garden.
There's a lot of little stuff here.
Right, right. Like the placement of the stones. Even the paths are done, artistically.
You mean with a stone here?
Right, stones laid. So this is supposed to emulate a stalk of bamboo with the leaves and even impressions. Right.
And this is,
right.
So all of this,
yeah.
Everything is put here.
Everything is thought out before it's put in its place. This shrub here is a combination of a boxwood and a hawthorn, and it's supposed to look like Mount Fuji. So when you're sitting in the tea house, you would imagine that you were actually looking at Mount Fuji in the distance. A really wonderful man by the name of Ed Schuster designed that, and still comes in. He's retired from the city of San Francisco, but he still comes in and maintains this wonderful art form. And here on the left is a beautiful dragon. You can see even its head here.
Oh.
Isn't that wonderful? He's designed that
There's the
as
tail
well.
And it goes
Yes,
up.
yes.
Now see, if you hadn't pointed that out,
Right.
I don't think I would have seen either one of these things.
I know, I know. People from Japan often notice Mount Fuji, though. It becomes pretty apparent to them.
But the dragon.
But the dragon is something that
Can I
people
walk
will
over
not-
there?
Yeah, of course.
So this is the head of the dragon
Yes.
right here.
Right.
And here's the body that goes back to the tail.
Yes.
And here's Mount Fuji
Right. With the
Over
snow
here.
on the top.
with the snow on the top. There are a lot of hidden things in these gardens.
That's true. That's true.
The Japanese tea garden has to be one of the most beautiful places in our entire state. But there's much more to this garden than just its beauty. There's a compelling human story here as well. Now, this is exciting because we have hooked up with some very important people historically as far as this garden is concerned. Your name is?
Tanako Hagiwara.
And your relationship with the garden.
My great-grandfather started it in 1894.
So it was your family, your great-grandfather, that started all this.
Right, right.
And these are younger descendants.
Right, I'm Doug Dawkins. This is my sister.
I'm Michiko.
And so you are the great-grandchildren.
Two greats, great-great-grandchildren,
grandchildren.
and fifth generation in America.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been quite a while.
Well, let's stand over here because this is where your family actually lived back then, right?
Yes, yes,
What was the story? You lived in the garden?
yes, we did. And this basically was our backyard, or front yard.
Really? Now, let's go to your front yard.
All right.
Where would that have been?
Back through this opening.
So the house, I've seen a picture of it, was a beautiful, very substantial looking house.
Yes, it was. It was 24 rooms.
24 rooms. And where was it situated exactly?
Down here, actually, this probably was the beginning of the home, and it went down
So it was all right in here.
right in here.
Now what's happened to the house now?
They demolished it during the war, so it's no longer.
Now that's the other part of the story, is what happened during the war.
Right, I think during the war, you know, there was a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment, and because of it, the family was removed along with the rest of the Japanese in California. The Hagiwaras happened to go to Topaz in Utah, and during that period, the house was removed. And in fact, the name of the garden was changed for a while to the Oriental Tea Garden to remove the Japanese inference.
So they actually took
Oh, yeah.
the word Japanese out of the title of the garden.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now you were physically removed from the garden.
Right.
At what age?
4.
So you lived here in this house
Right.
until you were 4.
Yes.
Do you have any memories of the garden at all?
A little bit, not really a lot.
I have seen pictures from your family photo album of your family posed in the garden in various sorts of attire.
Oh yeah, the Japanese tea garden wasn't only meant as a garden, but also a way to expose Americans to the Japanese culture. You have to remember, in Return of the Century, Japanese was very unique and unusual.
And foreign and exotic in a way.
Exactly. And so you saw that all the people serving in the tea garden here, and that was family members, most of the ladies, would wear kimono and wear the small slippers and walk in very tiny steps. But we also have photographs of them in completely Western dress. And it seems so unusual to see both sides of it. But they lived their life as Western people in San Francisco, and yet when they were working, and that meant serving people and presenting the tea garden, they would be Japanese, or as Japanese as they could be.
Why did your great-great-grandfather start this garden in the first place?
Well, I think he was one of the very few people who was capable of maintaining a garden like this. In the early 1900s, there weren't very many Japanese, and especially Japanese who were very good at this kind of gardening. So he was brought in to handle the garden, and because of his special situation, they also had the opportunity to live here and to take care of it like their own place. So it was more than just a tourist attraction to them, it was their home.
And it just went on from generation to generation. Was this just something that happened? Was it planned that way at the beginning, or was it just become a family thing?
I doubt if it was planned that way. I think it became a family thing. But the Japanese culture tends to do that. You continue tradition, and in America this was something people liked, so they continued to.
Well, this must have been a wonderful place to live.
Yep.
Yes. I mean, you had your own private, well, it wasn't really private, but then in a way it was, wasn't it?
Once the gates were closed, it was like home.
Now you've brought something that is really a part of family and tea garden history.
Yeah, this is a registry that it's essentially a guest book, and because the family treated the garden as sort of like their own home, and the people who came were guests to their home, these books, these huge books, were laid out and people could sign in. And you know, it's really interesting when you go through here, you can see exactly what was going on. This particular book is from the 20s.
1925.
Correct.
October.
And when you go through this, you can see, oh, you know, a troop of Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts came, or a family came. They were from Iowa. Some people even put graffiti in here. There were little faces and little pictures.
Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, Belfast, Ireland.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing the things that you find in here. When we first started looking through these, I thought, well, we won't take too much time. I mean, we'll see a few names, but it's really like reading a story. You start at one page and you just keep going and going, and you find out more and more about the people who came to the tea garden.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Well, I've seen a picture of the old tea house, and there's the book in front.
Right. In fact, that's my great-grandfather sitting in the tea house. It's sort of a portrait of him in a working area where they would have put the tea together and had it ready for serving. And the book is sitting right there in front, and you can see just how big it is.
What did happen to the garden during the war after your family was taken away from here? What happened to the garden itself?
Well, the garden was still here, but they didn't maintain the landscaping, etc., so it became overgrown. It really did not look like a Japanese garden any longer.
Did the family ever come back after the war?
No, they were given the opportunity after the war. However, my dad felt that there was just too much work for one person, that he would not be able to do it. And also the city wanted a large cut of the tea house, and so he wasn't sure he could meet that expense.
So the city wanted some money out of this thing.
Right.
Was it a money-making deal?
Not for the family when they did it here. It was more for the love of the Japanese tea garden and to present the Japanese culture again. They wanted to present green tea. That was one of the things that Makoto, the founder, was felt was so important. He wanted to bring green tea and the tea ceremony to America, and that's why we have the tea house. They wanted to serve that tea.
So this really was seen from the very earliest days as a way of introducing traditional Japanese culture to America, to California.
Oh yes, and you know, its roots being the Midwinter Exposition. It was originally a pavilion similar to the pavilions you might go to at a World's Fair that have a Brazilian life or even Japanese life, and it stayed on. So it maintained its roots as a cultural pavilion kind of place.
Now we have come across the plaque here honoring the Hagiwara family.
Yes, and this is a plaque that was created by Ruth Asawa, a very famous local artist. She also of Japanese descent. She went into the Sierra Nevada to choose this stone particularly and had it brought back. And she did all the bronze work.
Why the Sierra Nevada for the stone?
This stone is similar to some of the stones that are already here in the garden.
I see.
And she wanted to pick a particular stone that would be exactly right. So she used that Japanese approach, and she went to great effort, and we certainly appreciate it.
So this is the plaque that actually officially honors your family who started all this back in 1894.
Right, exactly. And I think truly it honors our ancestors more than us. I mean, we didn't work here as hard as they did. I'm glad that something finally went up so that it says, hey, the Hagiwara family was here and they worked hard and they tried to do something nice for the San Francisco people.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Howser, and I sure hope you enjoyed this adventure. If you'd like to see it again, or share it with your family or friends, or perhaps donate a copy to your local school or library, it's available on video cassette and on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.